We need to have a serious conversation about Darko Rajaković. This is his third year as Raptors head coach, and I'm wondering if the Raptors have hit their ceiling with him, if he's taken the team as far as he can. Give me about 10 minutes and let's try to figure it out. In his first 2 full seasons, this is how many games the Raptors won. In the first season, they won 25 games. In the second season, they won 30 games. And in this, his third season, they've already gone well beyond the 30-win mark. There is an element of understanding for the lack of wins over the last couple of years, but the first year he was here, it wasn't really considered to be a rebuild year. They continue to say that this is the second year of their rebuild. So, we're well along in our timeline. In fact, we might be a little bit ahead of schedule in our timeline, but even still, 55 wins across his first 2 seasons left quite a bit to be desired from myself and the Raptors fan base. But perhaps a lot of perspective is starting to shift with the successes that we've seen from the win-loss category and the NBA standings for this season here. But people are starting to sour a little bit more on Darko Rajaković as of late, especially because of the way the Raps are playing and, most importantly, finishing against some of the best teams in the NBA. It's no secret that's where the Raptors have struggled, against the top 10 teams in the NBA. And of course, those are better teams. You're going to struggle more against the better teams. But it's just that the Raptors are not really picking up any wins against those teams right now. I mean, let's take a look at the Eastern Conference, the teams above them in the East. These are possible first-round playoff matchups for the Raptors. They are 0-1 against the Pistons, 0-3 against the Celtics, 0-4 against the Knicks, and they still have to play them again one more time. The only team they've beaten ahead of them is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And granted, they're 3-0 against the Cavaliers, but all 3 of those games were pretty early on in the season when the Cavs were struggling before they made the trade for James Harden. So it's a much different Cleveland team at this point. We won't have a chance to play them in the regular season again, but I wonder if we would have that continued success against them late in the season compared to at the start of the season. And it's not just the East where there are problems for the Raptors. As a whole, the Raptors are 4-17 against the top 10 teams in the NBA. They've lost 7 straight of those games, and to make it even worse, they've lost 15 of the last 16 of those such games. Pretty ugly record-wise. And what makes it worse, that within those games, they've been in very good positions to win those games. They've had double-digit leads. They've taken those double-digit leads into the second half, and at times even taken those double-digit leads into the fourth quarter, but still, they are not getting over the lines. Now, I told you, they're 4-17 in games against the top 10 teams in the NBA, 3-0 against the Cavs. The other win came in that ridiculous away win against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, very, very impressive to do that, but such a lack of consistency, or in fact, a very consistent amount of losing in those situations. If the Raptors want to be a good team, want to be a playoff team, and that's currently where they sit, they need to be picking up more wins in these environments. And more importantly, they need to finish the opportunities when they get them. When they're up by 10 plus in the fourth quarter, they have to be ruthless and finish off the games. But that's where the problems are really lying for the Raptors this season, in those fourth quarter scenarios, oftentimes where a coach really has to step up for his team. There have been a lot of question marks about Darko Rajaković and his ability to coach the team in those fourth quarter situations. Oftentimes, he might get rotations wrong, like starting the game, we'll take the San Antonio Spurs game, for example. The Raptors are up by 12 points going into the fourth quarter. Why on earth would they start that quarter with both Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram on the bench? And sure, after the game, Darko talked about Scottie Barnes not being fully healthy. And okay, but that wasn't the only instance in which he did that this season. Really, from my perspective, there should not be 1 minute in the game, period, that both Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram were on the bench, let alone in the fourth quarter, against the second best team in the Western Conference. On top of that, throughout his time with the Raptors, his game management has been very suspect, with the way he uses his coaches' challenges, the way he uses his timeouts, or doesn't use his timeouts sometimes. Like I can recall in the game against the New York Knicks, where the Raptors were up by, it must have been close to 20 points in the second half. The Knicks ended up blowing the Raptors out. They completely dismantled them in the second half. And it felt like there was a huge shift when Brandon Ingram was called for an offensive foul on a bucket that he made, and it was a terrible call. It should have been 2 points for the Raptors. Instead, the Knicks go the other way and start a huge run to make that comeback. But I feel like if that's the perfect opportunity to use the challenge, especially with a made bucket there. It felt very winnable, and it felt like the game really swung in that moment. And again, I'm really cherry picking an example there, but it feels like consistently in the Darko Rajaković tenure, coaches' challenges especially have been mismanaged, but not using timeouts effectively. Again, it's just these are the small things that can pile up and make you lose these games when the margins are so slim against some of the better teams in the NBA. On top of all that, maybe where the Raptors crumble the most in the fourth quarter is with the play calling. Like, we can take the most recent loss to the New York Knicks, our fourth game against them this season, where it's pretty close throughout. The Raptors are in a battle, but then in the fourth quarter, they just completely plummet. They only score 13 points in the fourth quarter. And again, maybe I'm cherry picking a specific example here, but so often throughout the season, the Raptors, their offense has let them down tremendously. It's like they don't even know what they're doing out there on offense when it comes to these fourth quarter scenarios. They cannot score consistently. Now, where the Raptors have been exceptional this season against the teams below them in the standings, they are so efficient at beating the teams beneath them. And that's a very good quality to have. But oftentimes in those fourth quarters, it is the defense that is carrying them over the line. They are still struggling to score in those scenarios. It's just the defense does enough. When you're playing against one of those better teams, the defense alone isn't going to cut it. You need the offense to be there with it. Part of these fourth quarter collapses, it also falls upon the players not playing as well. And there are some games where there has been a fourth quarter collapse from the Raptors, but they've had their opportunities. And it comes down to sometimes being a make or miss league. The Raptors just not making their shots. The opposition team is making their shots. But again, there are a lot of instances as well where it just feels like the Raptors are devoid of ideas. They don't know how they are going to produce offense in the fourth quarters, and it just turns into basically Brandon Ingram isolations and pray. Sometimes a Scotty Barnes isolation and pray. They are just so poor at manufacturing high-quality looks to a consistent degree in these fourth quarter scenarios when the game environment changes, when the game environment becomes more half-court driven, it slows down. These are environments reminiscent of what would be playoff environments. And if we get there, again, some question marks about this team, because when it starts to look like a playoff game in the regular season, that's where the Raptors struggle the most. Now we got to win 4 out of 7 games in a playoff series against one of these teams that we're struggling to beat. That sounds pretty tough. Now, we've been largely critical of the team so far, but let's zoom out on this season. Despite all the issues that we're presenting here, we are in a top 6 position in the Eastern Conference, and a playoff appearance looks extremely likely for the Raptors. If you would have offered me that at the start of the season, I would have gladly accepted it. This was a team I thought would be around 500, maybe just under. Projections for the Raptors coming to the season with that, they're going to be around 40 wins. It looks like they're going to go well beyond that. It looks like they're going to even go beyond 45 wins. There's a lot to be satisfied with and a lot to be impressed with from the Raptors and their coaching staff this season. But it still feels like it could be even better than where it is right now. Which brings us back to the question: have the Raptors hit their ceiling with Darko Rajaković? Is this the extent to which he can take the team? Because let's go back to when the Raptors hired Darko Rajaković. This is a guy who had no head coaching experience in the NBA, had a lot of assistant coaching experience, and where he had success as an assistant coach was morale. I mean, you see how much players, former players, like this guy, and how much the current Raptors group like this guy. That was clearly a point of emphasis. Morale was really down in Nick Nurse's final season, so he was brought in with an emphasis on team morale. And where else he had success as an assistant coach was with development, his developmental projects. And with the Raptors in a really tough position, looking to go younger, looking to focus on the draft, a developmental coach, that seemed like a pretty good thing for the Raptors to take on. And to Darko Rajakovic's credit, there has been immense success when it comes to team morale. Even when they were only winning 25 games in a season, even when they were only winning 30 games in a season, team morale was always up, and it has maintained up this season. As far as developmental success is concerned, well, there are some non-success stories for sure. There's been a lack of improvement with Grady Dick. Doesn't feel like Jacoby Walter has come on quite enough, but there has also been some very good developmental stories. Scotty Barnes has taken a step this season. Jamal Shead has become a firm piece in the Raptors rotation. Mahmoud Kilishvili is having the best season of his career. So I would say, as far as development and as far as team morale, there have been successes there. That's what he was brought in to do. But now the Raptors are looking to take on a new level, and they should be taking on a new level, and at least trying to take on a new level, given how much success they've had on the court and in the win-loss category this season. The successes that we've seen this season should spark a desire to truly start competing next season. So now, let's answer the question: is Darko Rajaković the right guy? And if you know me and you know the channel, you know I've been pretty against Darko Rajaković as a head coach in his first 2 seasons with the Raptors. And I know there were issues with the team. I know there was issues with the roster construction. But the issue that always remained for me with Darko was that I didn't really see that glimmer of hope. I didn't really see the vision of where he was taking the team. So people continue to tell me, like, just wait, like, we need a better roster, we need to improve the team. When we do, then you can truly evaluate Darko Rajaković. And my rebuttal to that was always, well, I don't even see the hope in that with this guy as the head coach. So I don't want him to be the head coach when we actually get those good players. I don't want to waste that better roster with him as the head coach. But definitely my opinions on him has shifted this season because yes, the roster has improved a little bit with the acquisition of Brandon Ingram and injecting him into the team this season, and there's been success. And now I am starting to see that glimmer of hope exist. There have been flashes on the offense, and he has showcased pretty well this season that he can put together a very talented defense with pieces that really shouldn't be a very talented defense. And there's more to the story of these second half and fourth quarter collapses for the Raptors. I guess we'll continue to call them collapses. There's more to the story there because the roster construction really is awful from the Raptors. Like the NBA these days, what is prioritized is shooting and size. And it feels like the two biggest weaknesses for the Raptors roster right now is shooting and size. Like they are a very, very small team and they are very, very much lacking in shooting. So for guys like Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes, sometimes it has to just be iso ball because there's just such a lack of space to operate on offense because this team is so devoid of shooting talent. It's one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA. I can kind of start to see the vision of the way Darko wants to deploy the offense. And if you inject more spacing and shooters within that, I can see it take off a little bit more and really be successful in this league. So I think the criticism of Darko is very valid. He needs to improve as a game manager and as a winner. He's very inexperienced in doing that. 2 full seasons with the Raptors where they spent most of the season tanking, where they spent most of the season trying to lose. He's in this really new role where he's actually having to get them over the lines in these games. And there is a bit of an adjustment period. And you can say, well, we want to start winning. We need a guy who's capable of doing that. And again, I've come around quite a lot on Darko. I'm not his biggest fan by any means whatsoever. However, I think that he has earned the right to be given this opportunity. He has earned the right to be given the chance with a much better constructed roster. Like it's important to understand that a lot of these teams that we're losing to at the top of the NBA standings, as much as it is frustrating, these are all teams that have made significant investments into the talent with their team. They've sacrificed young talent oftentimes, and even more oftentimes, they have sacrificed draft picks. The Raptors have not done that as of yet. This is a Raptors team that has all of the assets at their disposal. They are in complete control of all of their first-round picks, and they have some good expiring salary to use in trades next season with guys like RJ Barrett and Grady Dick. They are certainly in a position where they can improve this team. And again, where I previously thought, I don't really want that improvement to be used on Darko Rajaković, I'm starting to be able to see the potential for something starting to cook here with him. Now again, I'm not his biggest fan by any means, and I still have my doubts about him, but I feel as though with the success he's gotten out of this team, and it's pending the rest of the season, there's still plenty of games remaining, but with the success he's gotten out of this team that has overachieved this season, I think he has earned the right to be able to see what he can do with a much better constructed roster. And that's on the front office to give him those sorts of pieces. It's a polarizing topic, and I see both sides of it. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and I'll have a look and answer as many as I can. And you guys let me know as well. This is the first time I've done like an actual video on the channel in a while. If you enjoy the content like this, let me know in the comments down below, and it'll definitely motivate me to do more like it if you did enjoy.